Yes, thank you for joining me at the Interpace Diagnostic Investor presentation for January 2017. Next. Our forward-looking statement, this is typical for public companies. Please read it at your leisure. Next. Our management team is made up of several executives with a great deal of experience. Myself, I've been CEO here at Interpace for over a year now, prior to which I've been a director at PDI and sit on the board of a variety of different public biotech companies. Dr. Finkelstein, our Chief Medical Officer and Chief Scientific Officer, was the founder at RedPath and is a board-certified pathologist. Greg Richards runs our commercial operations, has a tremendous background, including previously working with Aetna and Genentech and several other executives, including Jim Early, who's relatively new on board, but our relatively new Chief Financial Officer. Next. Interpace Diagnostics provides clinically useful molecular diagnostic tests and pathology services for evaluating risk by leveraging the latest technology in personalized medicine for better care for both patients as well as management of diagnosis. Our key accomplishments in the last year, we're NASDAQ listed, and we've worked hard to maintain that NASDAQ listing this year with continuingly high margin products. Our revenues in the proprietary high-value molecular space continue to be strong. We have 4 proprietary offerings in what we consider to be 2 key verticals, endo and GI, with 3 products currently on the market. Our products have high barriers to entry. We've had some excellent cash collections. New York State approval for us was a major accomplishment in Q3 of 2016. Aetna, as many of you know, we announced that Aetna has accepted our ThyraMIR assay, and by doing so, it includes both of our thyroid assays now, covering around 47 million lives. And of course, our corporate restructuring continues. And importantly, in the last 30 days, we've raised about $10 million in capital to help spur our position. I mentioned earlier, next, our molecular tests are both in the gastrointestinal vertical and in the endocrine vertical. Our tests include for PancraGen cancer, PancraGen, which we believe is about a $350 million opportunity, focused on pancreatic cysts. And on the endocrine side, our ThyGenX and ThyraMIR tests, again, also about $350 million in sales. Let's talk first about PancraGen, our assay for pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer continues to be a strong killer in the United States. In fact, today, pancreatic cancer is about the 4th leading U.S. killer. The 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer is about 7% and continues to grow in terms of the opportunity. So as we evaluate pancreatic cancer, we believe it's a very strong area. What's interesting about this opportunity is that pancreatic cancer is often an abandoned cancer in terms of diagnostics. Moving on to slide 9, PancraGen is an integrated molecular pathology evaluation where we bring together imaging, cytology, fluid analysis, which are often known as first-line assessments, with a more sophisticated molecular diagnostic. Another way to say it is we're really the pathologist's pathology. We utilize a complex oncogene point mutation evaluation with the sophisticated DNA analysis in our testing. Slide 10. 120,000 pancreatic cysts are identified annually, a very large opportunity, but the current guideline tests are really unreliable. In fact, 80% of all surgeries for pancreatic cysts are for benign disease. That results in unnecessary healthcare costs and high morbidity and mortality. Oftentimes, pancreatic cancers go undetected. On the endocrine side, ThyGenX and ThyraMIR, both thyroid cancer products, are products that have been introduced in 2015 and have continued to grow in 2016. Slide 12. The common clinical problem with thyroid nodules is that they are growing at a very high rate. 10 to 18 million US adults have nodules, with an estimated over $500,000 fine needle aspirins per year in the US and growing. What's interesting about it is that while thyroid nodule incidences are growing, in fact, the incidence of thyroid cancer-related deaths are flat. Next. Slide 13. Our thyroid microRNA classifier is the first gene expression classifier in the marketplace. ThyraMIR measures the expression of 10 microRNAs, and when used in combination with ThyGenX, yields both negative and positive predictive value. ThyGenX and ThyraMIR combination testing can rule in and rule out the risk of malignancy, important to both patients and to healthcare providers. Next. Good example would be to effectively look at 10 patients in the marketplace today. Today, let's say that of the 10 patients, you would typically find 3 of those patients progressing to malignant cancer. But under the current guidelines, known as the Sendai guidelines, effectively all 10 patients would end up progressing to surgery. Our largest competitor, Afirma, known to be the leader in the marketplace, would take about 6 of those patients to surgery, and again, with only 3 of the patients progressing to cancer. What's important with our combination, the combination of ThyGenX and ThyraMIR, is that we would only take 4 patients to surgery, of which 3 patients would end up with malignant cancer. What's important next is that the end result is a 69% decrease in unnecessary surgeries relative to the market-leading Afirma test in the marketplace. Next. Barrett's esophagus for us is another target, and in fact, a product that we currently have soft launched in the marketplace. Barrett's esophagus, which is known to be the progressor to esophageal cancer, again, a very deadly cancer. Next. 3.3 million adults with the potential of over $2 billion, doing roughly 850,000 endoscopic screens annually, demonstrate the size of the potential marketplace for Barrett's esophagus. When looking at how PancraGen might be useful, it's simple to focus on the ablations for Barrett's esophagus. Today, the ablations to potentially prevent cancer are very, very significant. And again, a high number of those ablations are done on patients that will never progress to metastatic cancer. Our goal with our PancraGen assay is to help avoid the unnecessary ablative therapy and help put patients on an active monitoring or surveillance. And ultimately, our goal is not only to reduce healthcare costs, but to improve patient healthcare as well. Next. The biliary study is really our base study that was done with progressors and focused on our PancraGen assay. And overall, we had a very high accuracy for predicting the progression to cancer. As you can see in our schedule included herein, we have a sensitivity of 95.7% with a specificity of 87%, a very powerful indicator that our assay is really right on target. But PancraGen is a big market opportunity. The soft launch was initiated in 2016. We have a relatively small study with our base study. We're working on developing additional clinical study work, and we have this assay in the hands of several of our key opinion leaders as we gather additional data and develop additional clinical studies. What we believe is this is an excellent partnering opportunity for us in 2017 with the data that we've already generated. And we are seeing interest by some potentially major product and device companies. In addition to our intellectual property and know-how, we also have a strong patent portfolio and proprietary attributes related to our experience in the space. On the pancreas side alone, we have 3 patents. We patent our platform, and importantly, it's our know-how in the space, as well as our ability to assess results in a very interactive way. PancraGen and thyroid tests, certainly one of the important characteristics for a successful molecular diagnostic is payer type. What's interesting is because of the nature of our patients in PancraGen and thyroid, our PancraGen patients tend to be older, and Medicare makes up about 35% of our patient population, where our thyroid patients tend to be younger, where commercial insurers make up about 52% of our patient base. What's important is that for Medicare in our LCD, our local MAC, we are covered for Medicare. What's also important as we look at our thyroid assay is in fact the approval we got from Aetna, expanding our commercial insurance coverage significantly. The assays we do, which are really not necessarily focused on oncology, we're really a pre-oncology assay company. The valuation and our reimbursement is higher than you might expect to see among similar companies. And so our list price for PancraGen is around $4,000, and our list price for ThyGenX and ThyraMIR is $1,675 and $4,000 respectively. You can see that PancraGen, we already have 71 million covered lives, and on the endocrine side, we're covered with over 200 million lives at this point in time. And what's interesting about this as well is that our realized revenue is relatively high. It's almost 50% of our list price. Important again in the molecular diagnostics are guideline recommendations. The guideline recommendations in the thyroid area are very strong. The guideline recommendations in the pancreatic area are growing and improving. We think we're in the right place. And in fact, while we have multiple competitors on the thyroid side, on the pancreatic side, we have virtually no competitors in that space. And we think we're extremely well positioned for growth. Next slide. In addition to our core products, we've also in 2016 expanded our product offering by launching a new biliary product in October and expanding our product offering in AccuCEA, a more detailed evaluation of amylase or first-line therapy. We've also launched cytopathology services, all of these feeding into our more complex secondary stage assessments that are typically done with our complex molecular diagnostics. Next stage. From a financial point of view, we have reported our 9 months earnings through September. We have not yet finalized our year-end information, and we typically do not give guidance as to how we're doing for the upcoming year, at least yet. But what's nice is that as we look at the 9 months ended September 30th, 2016, what's nice about that is that through the 9 months of 16, we actually, our revenues were greater than they were in all of 2015. So we're making good progress. At the same time, we've dramatically reduced costs across the board. And while we're not cash flow positive yet, we're making good progress to doing that. Next. On a selected financial data as well, we're showing improving cash flow from reducing costs. Our cash and cash equivalents at the end of September were about 1.7 in 2016. And as I mentioned to you, we've raised about $10 million since the end of September of 2016. So our cash equivalents certainly are stronger than they've ever been. Our current liabilities have continued to drop, and our total assets have continued to be strong as well. Next. And so thank you for joining me, and I look forward to taking any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, we're now opening up the line for our Q&A session with Interpace Diagnostics. Ticker symbol is IDXG on the NASDAQ. Again, that's IDXG on the NASDAQ. For the Q&A today, we have Jack Stover, President and CEO. Welcome, Jack.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here.
We're happy to have you here. A lot of news coming out of Interpace here the past couple months. So definitely glad to have you here to share the story with our investors.
Right.
I have a lot of questions actually come in, and several around the subject of some of the capital raises that have been announced here over the past 30, 45 days. Can you talk a little bit about that, maybe what you're going to be doing with some of those funds, and is there going to be any additional capital raises that you foresee in the near term?
Sure. So effectively, we have been raising money, from, I guess it's been about the middle of December until recently. Actually, we closed on a little over $4 million in a registered direct financing today. In total, in the relatively short term that we had, we raised about $10 million, basically under the baby shelf regulations of the SEC. And so I think overall it was a pretty successful fundraising. Many of the fundraisings that we did were virtually overnight with a small number of institutional investors. And as we look to the future in terms of fundraising, et cetera, there are opportunities we believe that we'll have to raise capital, but it's a different situation in that the needs of the company certainly have been fulfilled for the relative near term. We're not cash flow positive yet, but in fact, the cash that we've raised has provided us a nice runway for the better part of a year. So we're feeling very comfortable based on where we are right now.
Very good. Great position to be in. Our next question, you recently announced some news regarding a partnership with in Israel. Can you talk a little bit more about that partnership and also what other type of international expansion efforts do you foresee in the near term?
Well, we did. We announced a relationship in Israel, but we also announced a first step into Canada as well. And basically, the nature of those relationships are a little different, but there is a lot of similarities. The similarities are that we're talking about corporations that are well established in the regions, that are very interested in gaining access to our assays and utilizing those assays in terms of assisting their customers or their clients, et cetera. Obviously, we provide those, and we're happy to do so. And there are some intricacies or novel issues about doing business in Israel and doing business in Canada. Outside of the United States for a CLIA-based lab like ourselves. But what we do feel is it's an excellent first step for us in terms of moving quickly outside of the United States. to gain acceptance for the highly sophisticated assays that we have that we believe are largely acceptable all over the world. And again, a good step for us, certainly not the final step. And by the way, you know, the U.S. marketplace is far from being totally tapped, so it's not as if we're reaching outside of the United States for foreign markets because we need it. We're reaching outside of the United States for what I would call low-hanging fruit opportunities to be able to grow our business.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for that clarification. And can you talk a little bit? You just mentioned the U.S. market, so we'll jump back to this particular question. You announced about a month ago or so an agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield and their Center for Clinical Effectiveness. Could you talk a little bit about how that may impact positively the tests, the use of the tests here in the U.S. and other markets?
Sure. First of all, we already have coverage by many Blue Cross and Blue Shield local determinants, and in fact, by working with this organization within Blue Cross and Blue Shield, what they are looking to do is really to help structure us to be able to respond not only for assays that we currently have, but assays that are also in process in our pipeline, so that we can develop a systematic and a complete analysis in terms of improving our opportunity for reimbursement in the future. As many people know, reimbursement is key. As many people know, we've been extremely successful with reimbursement, but we still have plenty of room for growth and improvement on reimbursement. And this professional mechanism of doing it hand in hand with Blue Cross and Blue Shield is a great first step for us, or maybe not first step, but a great next step for us in terms of optimizing our reimbursement.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jack. And I guess looking forward, this next investor is curious, are there any major milestones over the next 6 to 12 months that investors should be watching for?
Yeah, certainly, major milestones in terms of the areas and the focal points of what we're addressing. I would be looking for additional reimbursement. I would be looking for continued expansion of our product opportunities. We already talked about international expansion and continuing to expand our reach globally, and identifying and looking at certainly new products that we think will be moving into the marketplace and growing at the same rate or similar rates to what we have in the market. A good example is our biliary assay. And then behind that is what we think is our largest potential opportunity, and that's our assay for Barrett's esophagus, a precursor to esophageal cancer. We have a product. The product is soft launched and in the marketplace. Our expectation is that in the 2017 timeframe, that we're going to be looking for and hopefully identifying partners to work with us to develop that product as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Jack. And I think you probably answered quite a bit of it just in that last answer. But our final question is, you've covered a lot of great information here. What's the key takeaway investors should have about the Interpace Diagnostics story?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway for investors and potential investors is that you have a company in what we think is the future of medicine. We're not an oncology company. We're a pre-oncology company, prognostically evaluating the potential for biopsies to progress to metastatic cancer. That's pretty amazing in a lot of ways. Certainly, when you look at the history of what we've gone through in the last 12 months or so, we had our challenges, and we've stood up to those challenges. And I think while we haven't solved every problem we had, we certainly have made tremendous progress. When you look at Interpace compared to almost every other molecular diagnostic company, there's one thing that makes us different. And the one thing that makes us different is that we are a commercial company. And most other companies in this space are technology-driven companies. I don't want to say we're agnostic as a technology company, but our core competency is clearly sales and marketing. And so we have the opportunity to push through our pipeline many other products and services that are synergistic to what we already have to be able to gain the kind of growth. And I guess I would also call it the consistency of revenue that many molecular diagnostic companies have not. When you add to that the reimbursement that we've been able to obtain and maintain, the combination has been very well recognized for us in the marketplace.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. For our viewers, we're just talking with Jack Stover, President and CEO of Interpace Diagnostics Group. Ticker symbol is, again, IDXG on the NASDAQ. We have a lot of more information available on Interpace Diagnostics right here at RedChip.com, so please visit the stock page here, and you can see some reports and previous interviews and other information all available right here at RedChip.com. You can also sign up for news alerts as well, which with the amount of news coming out and the developments as they happen, this is a great way to stay abreast of all of that as the company makes some additional announcements.